Well, if you've been following along on the channel, you know that I've tried a couple of different audio solutions. I've always meant this car to be a driver's car, something that I can take out and use, not just take to shows and show on the concourse scene or anything like that. It's not in great enough quality for that, but I like to drive it, and I like it to be practical and useful as a driver's car, so I want to have the ability to play audio in the car. However, I do not like a lot of the options of using the stock location for a head unit and putting in either an old head unit that doesn't have the newest technologies, or putting in one of the new head units that's made to look old. One, they're very expensive, upwards of $350, $450, and two, I didn't want to, I just don't want to have even the head units that are made to look old still have digital screens, and they just don't fit in with the car. So I've always tried to go as stealth as possible with my audio, and I'll put the link in the description to my previous 2 attempts. They both involved making self-contained units that fit inside of the speaker hole here. What I'm doing for this 3rd attempt is going upscale as far as the components. I already had some nice speakers, but I was using a cheap Chinese amp that I got off of eBay, and it didn't work right, and I did not like the way it connected to Bluetooth and all that stuff. So what I'm doing now is going upgrade with a new Bluetooth module, which is just this little tiny thing, so it's still going to be fairly stealth. This is the only part that should be seen when you're driving down the road. I'm not sure yet where I'm going to mount it, but this is the unit that controls the Bluetooth. So it's self-contained unit, Bluetooth 4.1. It has track up and down, play, pause. You can answer phone calls with it, and you can make phone calls with it. You can adjust the volume, so it's a nice little unit. You can also connect 2 Bluetooth devices at the same time, so you can play music from either device. You don't have to unconnect and then reconnect. The major portion of this upgrade is going to be the amp. So I've got this actual amp now, which has it's actually a 4x1, a 4 channel amp. Sorry, and I toiled over where to mount it. I thought of putting it in the trunk underneath the lid for the hatch that has the spare tire in it, but I have a lot of tools back there and other stuff. I did notice, as I was searching around for a spot to locate it, that the footwell here for the passenger is gigantic, and there's a lot of space up underneath for mounting this amplifier. So what I'm going to do is, I've already mocked up and made a part for it, and I'll show you here what I got. So this is, try not to block the light, this right here is just a piece of wood, fairly thin wood, but stiff enough to hold it. And I've got it mounted in with, there were 2 bolts coming through already that have in the engine of my car is the brake booster. So those come through, and what I've done here is I've just taken off the nuts, put a hole through the wood, and then mounted this piece right to there, and then tighten it back down. So fairly easy, and that will keep the unit up out of the way. So let's see if I can point this thing, use two hands. So this will go right up here. And what I've done is I've got 4 posts that I've pressed through the other side, and they hold, they will hold the unit up just by using some screws through each of the 4 corners at the mounting points of the unit. Now it's a basic amp here, so wiring is fairly simple. I've got the 2 left and right channels coming out, and done some cable management. I still have to clean up the cables, but the negatives going to, I've just created a post over here that is up underneath, and that's got all my negative terminals on it, and it's hidden behind this speaker, or this heater tubing, and so that'll never be seen. And then the unit, how the unit works is it's made to work off of the Bluetooth module has a 3.5 millimeter out, so just basically a headphone jack. So I needed a 3.5 millimeter input, and I needed to split that up into the line level input of the amp. So I took the line level input on the amp and took the wires and then wired them into this 3.5 millimeter focus. Come on, focus. There we go, 3.5 millimeter input jack. And then I just soldered the wiring together here, and I've enclosed it in some shrink tubing. And so that will take the input from the Bluetooth module. Okay, so how does the unit get power? So this Bluetooth system is meant to plug in via USB to a cigarette lighter adapter, which they provide in the kit, but obviously the MG does not have a cigarette lighter. Well, mine doesn't, and doesn't have a USB connection, that's for sure. So what I bought is a USB connector that takes 12 volt in, so I made this bracket for it. It's just a simple L bracket attached to a piece of wood that I've put a hole in and mounted this system. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mount it behind here. What I've got is, I'm also doing a lot of sealing to make the box more soundproof. So I've got a piece of wood that I've drilled holes here, and it attached tightly to the back to make a seal here. And so one of these, I'll just disconnect the nut that's on the back and then attach this. Imagine this coming from the back of this piece of wood, and it'll just sit there and it'll be hidden behind there, and then I can plug my USB cord into it and run the cabling down underneath here, and it'll be hidden from view pretty easily. And then so what I've also done is I've thrown some foam up here to fill the space, and I've added some foam to the back of the unit. And I've got foam strips around the outside, a piece of foam that I've glued to the back, so that'll press up and form a nice tight seal against the back here. And then on the bottom I've got a strip of foam that runs the entire way right here. That'll seal it to the bottom. You can see now that I've cleaned up all the wires. Here's in the back here the USB plate. I pointed it up so that I can have easy access to the USB input from either side. Okay, now I have it all fully installed. The only thing that is undesired, obviously, is the 3 holes that I have right here that used to have the buttons from my try number 2. But I'll find a way to cover those up somehow. I do have another one of these units, so obviously I'll replace this one with that, and then it'll look clean. But I've got the little controller mounted right here, so that's easy. And then all the wires are cleaned up. If you're sitting in the car, this is your view, so you can't even see the unit. If you come down, obviously you can see the unit, but there's plenty of room for feet and everything down there. All the wires are tucked away behind the kick plate here, and that's it. Really a lot more professional as far as the install goes and the components, so I'm happy about that. I'm just waiting on a 6-gauge power wire to run from the amp to direct to the battery. Obviously it'll be fused, but that's the only wire that that's the only thing preventing me from turning it on right now. But once I do that, I'll turn it on, and I'll check out the sound, obviously, and give you guys a review. That's it. Oh, and I have everything wired into at least the Bluetooth unit, and the USB adapter that's in the back is wired through my I have a toggle switch right here that turns on and off. So that's it. Okay, well, I had originally stated in the video that I was connecting the Bluetooth module to the amp via a line level adapter, which I wired by hand via some solder, but the sound out of that wasn't great. The Bluetooth module comes with this sound attenuator. Basically takes out the noise, the background noise, and that did an okay job, but it still didn't sound great. So what I've done here is I've connected this cable that is basically a 3.5mm jack on one end, and it connects into 2 RCA plugs right here. So the 2 RCAs go into the preamp inputs of the amplifier, and that way I found that sounded a lot better. Alright, so I got the Bluetooth installed, and easily connects to my mobile phone here. The amp is mounted up in the footwell and connected via there's a 3.5mm jack that I tucked down underneath, and that comes from the Bluetooth module. And then there's a USB. That USB is tucked behind, so everything is all nice and stealth. Can't see anything. This is holding the camera at my face, and you cannot see any bit of the amp. So the only thing visible is right there. And it sounds great. It actually sounds really good, and this isn't going to come through obviously on the on my camera here because the mic isn't that great, but play a little bit for you. I can turn the volume down by holding down on the skip back button, and I can turn the volume up by holding down. So yeah, it sounds good, and it has a lot more bass than I thought it would. And obviously I can use the equalizer in the phone to tweak it to my liking, but it sounds real good. So in the end, with take 3 of the stealth mod for getting audio in the MG, I believe I found a winner. So this one obviously sounds a lot better than the other one. The bass is a lot better than that crappy amp that I got off of eBay. And actually all the mids and the highs sound much better as well. So just all in all, it's good to get a quality amp. That definitely is the key to good sound. So well, I hope you found this one interesting, and hopefully it helps somebody if you're looking to do some audio in the MG without having it be intrusive or show that you actually have a radio in your system or in your car. And then obviously if you want to get the latest Bluetooth technology and be able to use all that, it's a lot easier doing it this route than trying to buy a $400 head unit that looks like a classic and has all the features of what the new cars come with. That's it. Hope you enjoyed.